What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Stokastic NHL Strategy Show. I'm your host, Josh Harris. On your way in, smash that like button, smash that subscribe. We are sponsored by PrizePicks. Yeah, Avery agrees. We'll have a deal for you in a little bit on that. But joining me, as always, co-host Slim Cliffy. How's your day off yesterday?
Not bad. Didn't watch. I watched a little bit of the Vancouver game last night. I went to go see Creed 3 last night. Pretty enjoyable. I didn't think it was as good as the first two Creed movies, but it was one of those things, like, it was a good cap off to the franchise, if not but not a great movie itself. You know what I mean? Like, it was a good homage, send off type thing. Jonathan Majors, I don't even know what to say about that guy at this point. Like, there's not a single role he doesn't just absolutely crush. Yeah. Like, he's worth going to see it alone. So no, I only watched a bit of the Vancouver game last night when I got home. Like, wasn't super excited to play the slate yesterday. Like, I looked at the games, and I guess if you're a schedule maker at the outset of the season, like, the matchups look exciting, right? Like, Chicago, Detroit, you have an original 6 matchup, and then Minnesota, Winnipeg is a pretty big divisional rivalry. You have Anaheim, Vancouver. Like, Vancouver looked like they're on the upswing heading into the season, and Anaheim looked the same with Zegras and Terry, and Drysdale and all those guys, and it just ended up being a terrible night of hockey, I imagine. Like I said, only watched a bit of that Vancouver game, but I enjoyed my day off then, in that sense. I didn't have to watch the Anaheim Ducks. I didn't have to watch the Vancouver Canucks. Didn't have to watch the Chicago Blackhawks. And any night I don't have to watch those teams is a pretty good night. How was your night last night?
I went bowling. I can't walk now because I haven't used those muscles in like 4 years because I have a bad back. Bowl 2 games, can't walk. That's how you know you're aging. So it's hilarious because we talk about, this player's getting old for hockey and they're younger than we are, and I go bowling twice and I can't walk.
That was the thing watching Creed 3 is like it's all about Michael B. Jordan being like past his prime as a boxer and completely washed up and all this, and the guy is like 2 weeks away from being bodybuilding competition ready. I'm just like, no, this guy's not washed up. Like, I can see what's on my screen here, but no, a nice big slate of games here tonight. A lot of interesting matchups. Some of the late games are a little bit of a mess, but that's pretty much going to be every night of big games from here until the end of the season, given how many teams are just so far out of the playoff race at this point. But provide some good value opportunities at times as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at this slate. There is a lot of cheap goalie opportunities here, especially on DraftKings. We will make sure to talk about that, considering it's an 11-game slate. Before we do, just give us a like and subscribe on your way in. Hit that notification button. You'll get alerts when all of our shows go live. All of our content is also available in podcast form on the platform of your choice. Help us out by leaving a 5-star review. As I mentioned, we are sponsored by PrizePicks. We will have a nice deal for you in a little bit. Let's get into this 11-game slate, though, shall we? Dallas Stars with a 3.6 total heading into Buffalo. The Sabres have a 2.9 total. Jake Ottinger and Eric Comrie are confirmed. Eric Comrie min price on DraftKings. Sabres are moving Jordan Greenway to the top line. Why? Not sure. I just know the coach Don Granato does have a crush on Jordan Greenway. Would make me assume that they're going to send out the Thompson line against Dallas 1. I don't know if Jordan Greenway, will help defensively, but I still don't think it's going to be like a lockdown line by any means, and it's definitely going to hurt them defensively or offensively. I mean, so I kind of like Dallas 1 here. 6-7% is fine on 11-game slate. They haven't been firing on all cylinders here, so I don't know. In my 1 to 3, I haven't built my lineup yet, but I just don't know if I'm going to make them a priority. That being said, they're barely over 20K now. They've been in the 22Ks for parts of the season, so there is a discount there. So push comes to shove, I'm on the Dallas side here. What side are you on?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting when you're talking about the top stacks on the slate here tonight. I'm talking about the top stacks, at least by price. Like, you basically have 6 pretty good lines, all within about less than $3,000 of each other that you could use as a primary stack. This Dallas top line being one of them. We'll talk about Colorado, Pittsburgh, Dallas, Boston, those teams a little bit later. But I think that's why, you're not seeing much ownership on Dallas, despite the fact that it is a very good matchup. I don't mind playing Dallas 1 here, actually, because for a number of reasons. One, like, they've just been a pretty good line all year. Yeah, they've had their ebbs and flows. Right now they're only scoring 2.5 goals per 60 minutes at 5-on-5 over the last 4 weeks. They're only shooting 7.5%. The league average is 8.5. You got to expect that'll probably turn around at some point. And more than anything is the Buffalo penalty kill. Like, the Buffalo penalty kill is still pretty awful. I was just looking, basically over like their last 20-ish games, like their last 20 games exactly. No team has given up more shots against per 60 minutes while on the penalty kill, and no team has given up more goals per minute while on the penalty kill. Now, Buffalo's only saving grace is they don't take a ton of penalties. They're under 3 times shorthanded per game for the season, which is, a fair bit below the league average. But they're having a really tough time killing off the penalties they do take. And even as the Dallas penalty kill has struggled over the last couple months, they're still better than most penalty kills in that stretch. They're struggling for how elite they were. They're not struggling compared to other, good lines, good power plays in general. So I really do like the Buffalo top line here. The question is whether to go to the Dallas top line. Sorry. The question is whether to go with any of the Dallas depth. Now, Ben Johnston and the Donoff is a pretty interesting line. Like, they have been really, really good since the Donoff got there. It hasn't been a big sample though, but the Donoff and Johnston have been heavily carrying the play when they've been on the ice together. So I think they're fine, but I'm going to be honest. I think it's the Domi, Seguin, Marchment line that I like better, kind of as a filler from the Dallas side. And the reason is I think Max Domi going to Dallas, these Dallas Stars, is kind of an underrated pickup for them. Like, I was really thinking about this over the last couple of days. Like, at this point of their careers in March of 2023, is there a big difference between Max Domi and Patrick Kane? And I don't really think there is, especially when you consider that Domi's versatile. He can play center and the wing. So, I'm just wondering, like, Domi is a really, really, really good playmaker. Now, he's really bad defensively, which is why he tends to bounce around the league. But I think he's a guy that can really help Seguin and especially Marchment. Like, pretty sure Marchment went like 30 games without a goal. And then the first game with Max Domi, he scored like in the second period. This guy will have a good effect offensively on him. You get those depth matchups from Buffalo, especially once you get past the top pair on the blue line. I don't mind Domi, Seguin, and Marchment. You don't have to stack all three. 2-man is fine, but I don't mind them as a secondary depth option here tonight. On the Buffalo side, I'll just say, like, right out of the gate, I do have a little bit of interest in Cousins, Quinn, and Middlestat. Like, Cousins is just genuinely a good two-way offensive threat. Like, there's no way about that now. He's a good playmaker, and he's a good finisher. Like, that's just what he is, even as young as he is. Jack Quinn's having a pretty good rookie season. He's just not playing. He just typically hasn't played a lot of minutes, not a lot of top power play time. And I was looking at some scoring chance data on Casey Middlestat recently, and he's boosted his scoring chance creation numbers basically 15% for the season over the last month. I'm pretty sure Casey Middlestat is leading the team in 5-on-5 points over the last month as well. Like, not points per minute, just points. So, Cousins, Quinn, and Middlestat's kind of catching my eye. Again, I think I would go to like a 2-man, like maybe like a Cousins Middlestat or something like that, especially with the minutes Middlestat has been playing lately. I don't mind them as a filler either. I do have hesitations about the top line. Now, Greenway being he's 2,500, right? That helps a lot, right? Like, that really fixes a lot of the problems. Like, if he shows up and he's 4,300 or something like that, then it's a pretty open question. But at 2,500, an assist and 2 shots, and he just smashes, right? Like, he doesn't really need a lot. I also think Greenway, like, there is some good playmaking data in his history, not a lengthy history of it, but there is some good playmaking data. And Skinner and Thompson have been able to carry just about any winger that they played with, even when Alex Tuch is out of the lineup. It's just, Dallas has a really, really good penalty kill. Ottinger's a really good goalie. Buffalo's, a lot of their value does come from the power play. I just don't think it's a really good matchup. I think if we're looking at opposing top lines, it's Dallas won pretty easily for me, even when factoring in price. And I don't mind that, maybe a 2-man from that Seguin line either.
Yeah, I mean, I see you're, Cliffy waking up and choosing violence, saying Domi is better than Kane. Like, offense impacts. Domi's all offense, no defense. So is Patty Kane. Max Domi's going to get softer matchups. So, there could be some truth to that. I just like Greenway min price, an assist and 2 shots would be smashing, but getting there is the hard part. That being said, that line with Greenway there, 16-5, you get Tage Thompson. It's fine. Like, you can leave Greenway off and go Thompson, Skinner, but like, Dallas is a good defensive team. Dallas has a good penalty kill. Jake Ottinger has been struggling recently, but you can't always count on Jake Ottinger to struggle. So yeah, I think Dallas one's my favorite in this game. I don't mind Domi, Marchment, or Domi Seguin 2-man. Marchment makes it cheaper, so that's probably be where I'd go. I kind of agree with you on Buffalo too. Very cheap 2-man there with Casey Middlestat at 2,700, Dylan Cousins 5,500, 8,200 for the two of them, avoiding top line matchups. There's some expensive stuff that you might want to jam later. Don't even mind a Middlestat one-off. He's been playing like 17, 18 minutes a night, and he's been doing stuff in those minutes. They're not empty minutes, so yeah, I do.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Casey Middlestat has reached double-digit DK points in like half his games since the All-Star break. Now, double-digit DK points isn't a lot, generally speaking, but if he can get to like 11 or 12 points for 2,700, like, I will take that all day long.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, he's definitely in the mix for me for one-off if I need a cheap guy. Let's move on to the next game here. Philadelphia Flyers with a 2.3 total heading into Carolina. The Hurricanes have a 4.1 total. Felix Sandstrom is confirmed. Pyotr Kochetkov is probable. He was in the starters crease this morning, and he's also min price on DraftKings. So if he does end up starting, there's your chalk. Sandstrom also 6,700 on DraftKings. So could be an interesting game to grab some goalies here. Carolina kind of had a pretty big letdown for a lot of DFS players when they played the Canadiens. That was in Montreal. Now they're home. I still really like going back to Carolina 1 here. It's just, 11 game slate. Kochetkov just got confirmed as I was talking. So he is starting min price. Carolina won, getting some pretty heavy ownership for good reason, I guess. 4.1 total. They're at home. They're not very expensive. The only thing in people's mind is they got burned with them, the last game. This is an equally as good, if not better, matchup. Not the best power play matchup. I mean, it's getting better in terms of power play, but again, Carolina kind of splits their power play anyway. So, for me, it's Carolina 1. The ownership could be an issue, but there's plenty of ways to get different. On the Flyer side, it's just a big mess. Like, the power play units are an absolute joke. Like, if anything, maybe I'm playing Tippett and Frost, but that's really about it. This is a brutal matchup for the Canes.
Yeah, I'm just skipping the Flyers.
Flyers, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm just skipping the Flyers. I have no interest in anything that they have in this matchup, so I'm just out. On the Carolina side, like, there are 3 playable lines. We should note also Puljujarvi's not playing. He was potentially in for today, but they're saying that he's not going to play till the weekend, so don't have to worry about Puljujarvi. I think Jake mentioned it. We mentioned on the last show. Jake mentioned it on Twitter today. That Carolina top line's just been absolutely scorching. Whether you look at the full season sample or whether you just look at recently, like, I was trying to cut the sample down to a point where maybe they started looking bad. So I looked at just the last 3 weeks, and they're still just absolutely crushing. 5.3 expected goals for, 5.3 actual goals for. Svechnikov has 11 points in his last 10 games or something like that. Like, they're just absolutely tearing the opposing teams apart. And, the Philadelphia penalty kill has been on a little bit of a slide, like, over the last 10 games. It's not a big enough sample to really say it's the end of their slide. What I will say about stacking Carolina here is, yes, there's going to be a lot of ownership. Like, we have the Carolina top line projected as the second highest owned line of the night. Bring up our top stacks tool. A Nashville line that we're going to talk about later is at the top, and then Carolina next, and they're second by a wide margin. Like, third place is half the ownership. So there's going to be a lot of heavy ownership on Carolina. And Tony DeAngelo suspended for this game. And Tony DeAngelo is easily their worst defensive defenseman, right? Like, I'm not trying to be flippant here, but if you look at shots against, expected goals against impact, actual goals against, like, everything, he's been the worst on the Flyers this season, and by a pretty fair margin. If you take him out of the lineup, it's going to hurt them offensively, but I think it's probably going to make them be better defensively. Like, it would be pretty hard for a defenseman to step in and be worse defensively than DeAngelo has been this season. So, like, maybe the Flyers, it's kind of addition by subtraction, that type of thing, at least for this specific matchup. So that would be my, one concern about playing Carolina, is that the Flyers might be a little bit better defensively than they otherwise would be. And then, could this be a game where, Carolina's up 3-0 after the first period, and, Sebastian Aho ends up playing 15 and a half minutes or something like that, right? Like, Carolina's in that position right now where they don't really have to worry about winning games. They should try to stay in first place in their division, but it's not like a massive concern. They're not fighting for a playoff spot. So as good as Carolina's top line has been, like, I think there are reasons not to play them. I'm not going to say don't play them, because they have been exceptionally good and they're not expensive. It's just, I think Philly might be a little bit better defensively tonight than they otherwise should be. And there's just a ton of ownership coming in on Carolina. That's all I'm saying about it. The Carolina second line is not coming with a lot less ownership now, a lot lower top 2 stack probability, but they have been driving the play pretty well, and they're really good defensively. So, like, they won't spend that much time in their end. I don't mind them as a secondary stack, honestly. And considering the much lower ownership, like, I'm fine going in that direction. I would probably just stack all 3 of them. I don't think you have to worry too much about power play stacking here. I would stick to even strength, and that second line has been controlling the play, riding percentages a little bit, but still generating a fair number of shots. And they're controlling like 66% of the shot share. So I do like that second line as a filler quite a bit, but yeah, Carolina top 6 here.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, like, if you're comfortable with the ownership. I think they're a fine play. Like the way Carolina matches at home, it kind of changes. Sometimes they send out the stall line, sometimes they send out the Aho line. This isn't a game where line matching is super important. There isn't like a line on the Flyers where you're like, well, I'll need to avoid them. No matter who they go out against, I think they'll be fine. Like, I think, who comes in for, is it Sealer or Braun? One of those two is coming in for Tony DeAngelo. And they're both kind of defensive defensemen. So by default, they're going to be a little bit better defensively here. I actually don't mind their defensive pairings. You know what I mean? Without Tony DeAngelo here, from a defensive standpoint, they're not awful. So I think your point, about them being a little bit better defensively is going to be true here, addition by subtraction. Still, I still like Carolina a lot here tonight. I don't know if they'll be my favorite if I'm gonna play them, but they're definitely going to be my mix for 1 to 3. I also agree on that second line. Like Jesperi, Kotkaniemi, earlier in the season, his offensive impacts were really, really poor. They started to pick up a bit. I know he had that 5-point game, but a lot of that came on the power play. But he actually looks like he's starting to round into some shape here, so don't mind that second line. Let's move on to my Rangers and your Canadiens. A little less meaning in this game than, some other ones that we won't talk about. Credit didn't run price. New York Rangers with a 3.9 total heading into Montreal. The Canadiens have a 2.5 total. Igor Shesterkin against Samuel Dikembe Montembeault. Rangers had about 5 days off now after, them going 11-4 for a few games here. Keandre Miller is back tonight from his suspension. Tyler Mott still out tonight, so they may go 11-6, I think. Oh no, they had emergency recall, so they'll have a full lineup here tonight. They're going Zibanejad, Tarasenko, Kreider, Panarin, Trocheck, Kane, and the kids. Now they mixed up the power play units for what reason? Other than Gallant being bored, I don't know. The Trocheck line is fully correlated on one unit. The Kreider line is fully correlated on another unit. And then, Heedle's on one of them, Kakko's on the other, and then Fox and Trouba are power play quarterbacking them. Now, this is a really good matchup for the Rangers, excuse me. Now, like, you can say this is a get-right game for them, sure. But numbers don't lie here. It's been a bunch of games now for the Tarasenko, Kreider, Zibanejad. Not a huge sample, but there is a sample on them. They're very, very low event.
They haven't been generating basically anything. Like nothing at all. We're up to 80 minutes together of that top line. 1.3 expected goals for per 60 minutes. That's about half the league average. 2.3 actual goals scored, which is below average. Shooting over 16%, which is nearly double the league average. So they're shooting nearly double the league average and still scoring below the league average because they're not generating anything. It's a concern. Like I was willing to give them like the first 3 or 4 games because, they were on the road and there's some tough matchups in there, but that hasn't been the case since. Like, yeah, they played Boston. But before that, Detroit, Washington, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Ottawa. Not really a murderer's row of teams there, and they're still not generating anything. I think you have to give them some leeway to kind of develop some chemistry, but I don't care if they're really good 3 weeks from now. I care that they suck today. That's my issue. So, Zibanejad, Kreider, Tarasenko coming in at 8%. They're an $18,200 line. The Boston top line is only $1,200 cheaper, and they're scoring at like double the rate the Rangers are without riding hot shooting percentages. You know what I mean? So, like, I get why you want to play the Rangers here tonight, that Rangers top line, because there's not a lot of ownership. But to be honest, they're just not doing anything. Like, just straight up, they're not doing anything. I know Tarasenko had that 3-point game. I mean, good for him. That's basically all that's happened since he's gotten there.
Yeah, but none of those points are a 5-on-5 though.
No, one was at, I think 4-on-4.
Breakaway.
One was on the power play. One was in overtime or something. So you look at the second line now. The second line, the way I talked about it when Kane got there was that I was treating the second line as if they were just putting Alexis Lafreniere there because Kane and Lafreniere, Kane's worse defensively, but they both struggled defensively a little bit. Lafreniere and Kane both still generating scoring chances, though not scoring a lot themselves. And the second line had really bad defensive numbers when Lafreniere was there, but pretty good offensive numbers. 3.3 expected goals for per 60 minutes. And they're the power play unit that's getting Adam Fox. And I want the guys on the power play unit with Adam Fox. I don't want the guys on the power play unit with Jacob Trouba. And it feels like that's going to blow up in my face tonight as I say it. But Adam Fox is just straight up like one of the 5 or 6 best power play defensemen in the NHL. And Jacob Trouba is nowhere near that level. So it's easily Rangers 2 that I like the best here. Like, I don't know if Kane's going to be good on that line. I have a pretty good idea Tarasenko is going to be awful on the top line. So I would rather go with the unknown, the uncertainty of the second line than the known garbage of the top line. Whether you want to dip down to the kids, I think it's perfectly fine because they're basically priced as filler stacks, but they're split on the power play unit. Lafreniere on one, Hedl on the other, Kakko on neither. If you want to two-man them, I guess that's fine. But I think it's the Rangers second line I like the best easily here. Once again, nothing for me from the Montreal side. Like, if you want to one-off some guys, go ahead. But I don't have a lot of interest in full three-man stacking any Montreal line.
Yeah, I have no interest in Montreal here tonight. The quick fix for the Rangers lines, and Gallant won't do it, is just flip-flop Kakko and Tarasenko.
Or just flip-flop Kane and Tarasenko.
Yeah.
Like, quite honestly,
never happen.
Like, I don't know why you're keeping Patrick Kane away from Zibanejad and Kreider, who are 2 shooters.
Yeah, because Panarin and Kane had chemistry.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Panarin and Kane played 7 years ago.
It was like 15 years.
Yeah, great stuff. Anyways,
yeah.
Next game.
Gallant. New York Islanders with a 2.8 total heading into Pittsburgh. The Penguins have a 3.2 total. Ilya Sorokin, Tristan Jarry are confirmed. Brian Rust back in the lineup. Someone else back in the lineup as well. I forgot who else missed that game. Gramlin. Yeah, he'll be back on the third line. Yippee-ki-yay. The bigger news there is Rust, who missed a game for personal reasons, back in the lineup on that second line. Danton Heinen was very serviceable there for the last game. Not much ownership on either side here. I think, if anything, honestly, it's going to be that Pittsburgh second line. They're cheaper than the Pittsburgh top line. The Islanders don't take a ton of penalties. They have a pretty good penalty kill. Where you can attack them is 5-on-5. Again, Sorokin and net, and that bothers me. But, if you're going to get like a 4%, 3% Pittsburgh 2 at 5-on-5 against the Islanders, who are just pretty pathetic defensively, I'll take that shot. You want to go to Pittsburgh 1, that's fine. They're just more expensive, and it's not the best power play spot. So Pittsburgh 2 for me. On the flip side, I think it's going to be that Horvat-Lee line. If you want to leave off Engvall, I think that's fine. Like we mentioned on the last show, where you more mentioned, Nelson Palmieri without Lee, just trash. So it's going to be Horvat-Lee or bust for me.
Yeah, I do kind of like that top line of Horvat-Lee and Engvall. The one thing that's concerning is Engvall got pretty much benched last game, and the coach said it wasn't like really performance related. It's they want him to get used to their system, and they had guys that were on the team all season that they trusted in the third period over Engvall, which, like, to an extent, it makes sense. Like, I get that. So there are concerns that Engvall, doesn't play the third period here tonight. I think he does, but they did it last game. They can easily do it again. Lee and Horvat have still been generating, like we talked about the last time the Islanders were on the slate. They're still generating even without Matt Barzal there. 3.1 expected goals for and over 100 minutes together. 3.1 expected goals per 60 minutes and over 100 minutes together. Problem is shooting 3.5%. And I think, a shooting percentage decline when you lose a playmaker like Barzal kind of makes sense, but 3.5% is, that's way too low. Even if they were double that, I would still say it would be too low. Anders Lee does have 32. He's over 3 shots per game with 5 goals in his last 10 games. So he's still doing stuff. It's just a matter of whether you want to include Engvall or not. But I do like that Islanders top line here in this game. Not a lot of ownership coming in under 5% owned. Pittsburgh penalty kill's terrible, like just absolutely awful. The only thing that's saving them ever is goaltending. Now the Islanders don't draw a lot of power plays, but they can get there even without Barzal. So I don't mind that top line. I'm with you. I think that's it from the Islanders. On the Pittsburgh side, it's a little bit tougher. Like, we were talking on Tuesday's show about the Pittsburgh top line. They have 100 shots on goal in the last 10 games. Just the top line, the 3 guys on the top line, and they have 5 goals. Like shooting 5% at all strengths. You know what I mean? Maybe they are wasting a few shots, but 5% over 100 shot sample, like it has to regress eventually. The problem is that it's facing Ilya Sorokin. I think I'm kind of with you. If anything, I would probably dip down to the second line. I don't think it's a great power play matchup. I don't want to stack a top line over 20K in a bad power play matchup when they're a bad power play anyway. So I'm with you. Malkin, Rust, and Zucker, they've been really, really good. Just their last 60 minutes together, 4.3 expected goals for per 60 minutes. That's just a monster offensive number. It's just they have to finish. If they start finishing, they can fill the net. So I'm with you. Pittsburgh 2, Islanders 1. That's what I'm looking at in this game.
Yeah, I mean, one of these times, like Pittsburgh 1's just going to blow open the doors and just like destroy a slate. Could it be tonight? I don't know, but like I'm not banking on it with a 20K line in a tough power play spot coming up against one of the probable finalists for the Vezina Trophy. So, I'm going to dip down to the second line. As we mentioned, up the hop, we are sponsored by PrizePicks. You can get 1 free month Stokastic Plus Platinum and a $100 deposit match bonus when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. The key here is to click that link in the description. It will take you to where you need to go to sign up. 1 month of Stokastic Plus Platinum is a $120 value. Gets you access to all of our tools for all of our sports on Stokastic.com. As you know, if you're in a legal state or a state that isn't legal for sports betting, PrizePicks is where you need to be. It's a prop-based contest. No sharp optimizers mass entries. I have not peeped Jake's Twitter yet today, but he usually puts out a 6-pack of picks. He's a little bit better at the PrizePicks than I am because PrizePicks isn't legal in New Jersey. So, but as Cliffy always mentions, and I actually remembered, if you do get that Stokastic Plus Platinum, you will get that shot prop tool that comes with it that Cliffy is about to pop up on the screen.
Yeah, sorry about that. This is the shot prop tool. You can use shots on goal, over and under, and it gives you, our projection, the odds that we're pulling from. Don't forget to shop your favorite odds at oddshopper.com. ROI and all that, both shots and goals. The one I picked out was Logan Couture's over. His line's 2.5, depending where you look. Over on PrizePicks, it's only 2. So, something happens, you can at least get a push out of it. But we haven't projected for over 3 shots, and his over-under on PrizePicks is only 2. So I think Logan Couture makes a nice little prize pick here tonight for anybody playing over there.
Yeah, that's another thing on PrizePicks. Like most sportsbooks line shot props at half shots. PrizePicks, sometimes you'll get like that 2-shot prop. So if he gets 2, it's a push. You won't lose. Very good. Make sure to click that link in the description below. Get you that deposit bonus and 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Let's move on to the next game, the Vegas Golden Knights with a 2.7 total heading into Tampa Bay. The Lightning have a 3.4 total. John Quick, for some reason, is confirmed. Andrei Vasilevsky is probable. I was actually kind of surprised to see that the Vegas Golden Knights are going back to John Quick here. he had a pretty good start to his last game, faded pretty quickly in the third. This isn't the Canadiens.
They have no options. They have 4 injured goalies. Yeah. 4.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy when you think about it. Like, it was bad enough last year that New Jersey was missing 2 goalies for like half the season. Vegas is legitimately like 3 are on the IR and Aiden Hill's day to day. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. So John Quick it is. Man, this game makes me nervous because one, John Quick's in net. Tampa's getting fairly low ownership here. Now they're expensive. They're over 22K, but they are fully loaded here. Fully correlated. I don't know, like from a 5-on-5 standpoint, it's not the worst matchup in the world, not the best. Like Vegas is a good team. They've been battling injuries all season. If you making me pick between Tampa Bay 1 and Pittsburgh 1, I think I'm going to play Tampa 1 here. Just, based on most variables here, I'd rather go up against Quick than Sorokin. It's a little bit better power play matchup. So I don't know. I like Tampa 1 here. I think they're in play in all formats. What do you think?
I'm just going to touch on the Vegas side first.
Sure.
I just don't have any interest in Vegas, which kind of sucks because I think Tampa's been an underratedly good matchup for opposing teams going in for a couple months now. Yes, certainly the last couple weeks. The problem is, other than the top line, like they kept Marchessault, Eichel, and Barbashev together in their last game. Every other line got nuked by the second period. And I mean, like, everything got nuked. Even William Karlsson and Riley Smith were broken up. Literally have no idea what the Vegas second, third, and fourth lines are going to be. So, like, it's one of those things, like, I would kind of have had interest in lines going up against Tampa Bay here tonight because they've really been struggling defensively. Not quite like Montreal's struggle, but definitely struggle for Tampa's, supposed quality. But we don't know what the depth lines for Vegas are going to be. And the top lines, like, frankly, not been very good. Since Barbashev got there, 59 shot attempts per 60 minutes, 79 against, 43% shot attempt share. Like, I'm sorry, like, that's what Barbashev does. Like, he's helped them score because he's actually a pretty good playmaker. He's just horrific defensively. Now, Tampa Bay had been using the Cirelli, Killorn, Hagel line as a shutdown. So ostensibly, Tampa's top line is going to be going into those Karlsson, Amadio, Kessel, Stevenson matchups, which I think could favor Tampa Bay quite a bit here. And you also get Jonathan Quick in net. Like, let's not forget how bad Jonathan Quick has been this season. He is arguably the most recognizable goalie the Los Angeles Kings have ever had, maybe outside of Kelly Rudy. He had 2 Stanley Cups. He played with them for like 15 years, and they just basically cut him. You know what I mean? Like, they went out and got Kyle Peterson and cut him, and went out and got Phoenix Copley, and then went out and got Jonas Korpisalo. Like, they went and got like 4 or 5 guys to play ahead of Jonathan Quick because he was so bad. Didn't work out for Los Angeles. We'll see how it goes for Vegas. I mean, Quick, maybe he looks better and behind Vegas, but I don't mind the Tampa top line here because of the incredibly low ownership on them. I think they make a nice pivot. I'm not as excited on the Tampa second line, but they are generating quite a bit. That second line is generating 3 expected goals per 60 minutes, 4.5 goals per 60 minutes, actual goals. Anthony Cirelli's been really good offensively. I just think going into Vegas 1, Barbashev will make them worse defensively. It could be a little bit tough, but I'm going to be honest. I don't mind a 2-man of like Cirelli, Killorn, or something like that, especially with Killorn getting top PP minutes. So I think Tampa 1's perfectly fine to play here, even against a pretty tough defensive team. I think Tampa 2 is actually my more favorite stack here.
Yeah, I've been playing Cirelli a bunch lately. Killorn's just been on fire, which happens once in a while. So, yeah, don't mind Tampa 2. Let's move on to the Lindy Ruffs. The New Jersey Devils with a 3.5 total. Heading into Washington, the Capitals have a 3 total. Lindy Ruff going for some interesting lines here. Tatar, Hischier, Mercer. Then Timo Meier, Jack Hughes, and Jesper Bachquist. Third line of Andre Palat, Eric Holla, and Jesper Bratt. Knights of Columbus, what are you doing? I'm kind of interested because this is kind of important how Washington matches at home because the Ovechkin, Wilson, Kuznetsov line has been absolute crap defensively. So I want the New Jersey line who's going up against them, even if it is Hughes, Timo, Jesper Bachquist. I can't imagine he makes it through the whole game there. At some point, Jesper Bratt will be up there, or Timo is going to be with Hischier and Mercer, and Hughes is going to be playing with, Michael McLeod and the beer salesman from Section 109. Like, I don't know. But I want the Devils line who's going against the Ovechkin line, and none of them have high ownership.
I just don't know how Washington's going to do this because Washington's last home game was like 2.5 weeks ago when Lars Eller was still there.
Yeah.
And they used Lars Eller and Nick Dowd basically in half the shutdown matchups, give or take. So I don't know if they're just going to keep going back to the fourth line, just send out Dowd and Obey Kubel and hope that they can pick up the slack that Lars Eller left behind. I mean, I guess we're going to find out tonight. The New Jersey top line, like there's no sample there, right? Obviously, the top line, I'm talking about the Hughes line because Meier just got there. Bachquist and Hughes just never play together. So there's no sample with any of the players. So you have to kind of figure out like how they're going to play. Like I think I have no problem saying Hughes and Meier are going to gel pretty well together. The question is how Bachquist fits in, right? Because a lot of his micro stats, like stuff that's tracked that's not publicly available, are just bad. And it's frankly shocking for a player on this New Jersey team to be so poor at scoring chance creation. He's just not doing any this year for a New Jersey team that's basically at the top of the league in every single scoring chance creation, statistic that's available. So I'm with you. I don't know how long he's going to last there. And if it's one of those games where he does end up staying there, like, is it guaranteed to be like a blowout, or is it like a 2-1 game and they're just going to leave him there because he adds some sort of checking dimension to that line or something? You know what I mean? So I honestly think I prefer the Tatar line here, Tatar, Hischier, Mercer. Like, I don't know exactly what the matchups are going to be because we don't know how they're going to treat it without Lars Eller around. I'm assuming that the Hischier line isn't going to see any of like the quote shutdown matchups, which means, probably not a lot of Backstrom, probably not a lot of Dowd. And I think that's going to line up pretty well for them at 5-on-5. And they've been like just absolutely unbelievable. Like, quite frankly, unbelievable. 4.6 expected goals for per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. It's like 80% higher than the league average. 4.8 actual goals. So it's not like the Pittsburgh problem where they can't score. They're scoring a lot. Dawson Mercer, 36 shots in his last 10 games. Where this came from, I don't know. He has good offensive numbers. Nothing that seemed to indicate this, but I think he's played over 20 minutes in 3 straight games, and that includes 2 games with Timo Meier in the lineup. So he's not the guy that's going to lose his role. If anything, it'll be Tatar that gets pushed down and Meier gets moved up, I think. That line's been really, really good. I don't think they see much of the shutdown matchups. They are, the much cheaper line, no ownership, like less than 1%. I think Hischier, Mercer, and Tatar is the line that I like best on the New Jersey side. If I leave anybody off, it's Tatar. I think if the line gets moved around, he's the one that leaves. It's just a guess on my part, but I think that's the way I would lean. On the Washington side, Mantha and Ovi playing together is interesting to me because, if you look at Mantha's stats data, like some of the non-publicly available stats, like I just talked about, they're pretty much similar to what he was doing in Detroit. The problem in Washington has been playing 12 minutes a night on the fourth line, rather than 17 or 18 minutes a night alongside Dylan Larkin with top power play minutes. Like that's basically been the difference. If you work out his goals per minute and transfer that to a per game average, it works out to like 29 goals in a Washington uniform every 82 games. And they've been good together. 3.1 expected goals for per 60 minutes and over 60 minutes together. 3.1 actual goals for. Like, there's a little bit of heavy ownership, but they're not super expensive. So I don't mind Washington one here, but I think it's the Hischier line I like best in this game, and it's not particularly close for me. And it feels weird to say considering Jack Hughes and Timo Meier are playing together.
Yeah, Timo's last game, he did get moved up with Hischier and Mercer. That's where he should stay, I think. I feel like he'd be best with Nico Hischier and just have Hughes and Bratt and whomever there. You know what I mean? Like Hughes and Bratt have redonkulous numbers together. I feel like Nico Hischier, Dawson Mercer, and adding Timo Meier, you can just have a ridiculously good top six. Lindy Ruff's going to Lindy Ruff. He does his thing.
I mean, the other thing here too is New Jersey's not playing to win this game, right? They're playing to set themselves up to see what lines work and what lines don't for playoffs that start in 5 weeks. So that's kind of the disconnect that you're going to see in a lot of these teams. Like Tampa Bay certainly fits that. We just talked about that with Carolina, and maybe when Puljujarvi joins the lineup. That's just the way it is. And I can't really blame Ruff for it. It's just really frustrating as a DFS player.
Oh, I can blame him. And I'm going to blame him. I'm blaming him.
I'll let you blame Ruff. Absolutely.
So let's move on to the next one. The Edmonton Oilers with a 3 total heading into Boston. The Bruins have a 3.6 total. Stewie Skinner is confirmed. Jeremy Swayman probable. Evander Kane back in the lineup on the top line with Connor McDavid and Zach Hyman. No ownership on the Oilers top line here. This is the worst matchup in the NHL for McDavid. And he scored twice against them last time. It was in Edmonton, but he was going out against the Bergeron line. Also, McDavid plays so many minutes. There's no way Bergeron's going to get every shift. Normally I'd be like, you know what? They're so expensive. I'm going to fade Edmonton here. But under 1%, maybe McDavid comes in 5%. The other guys come in super, super low. But you have to consider McDavid here.
Yeah, you do. I've brought this up a couple times before. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got in DFS was this was back in like 2017 or 2016 or something. At that time when Sidney Crosby was legitimately the best player in the world, and we talked about it was Crosby going into Carolina or something like that. He's like, and the person told me the absolute best players in the world, in 2023 we'd be talking about McDavid, obviously, Nathan McKinnon, Kirill Kaprizov, these types of guys. They're matchup proof. You can play them whenever. It doesn't matter. You can play them going into Boston facing the Bergeron matchup with Allmark in net. It does not matter. The only thing that matters is the price and the ownership, because these guys can absolutely nuke anybody on any given night. And like you said, the rest of the team didn't do a whole lot. McDavid scored twice in the last game against Boston in the Bergeron matchup. Can the rest of the line get there? That's more of an open question. Can Connor McDavid get there by himself? Yes, absolutely he can. And when you're talking about a line coming in under 1%, I think the problem is, will Evander Kane be there all game long, and will he be good? Because he's only played like 2 games or something in the last 3 months, give or take. Now McDavid and Kane have typically played really, really well together, even without Leon Draisaitl on the line, like around 4 goals per 60 minutes of 5-on-5, going back to last year in 450 minutes together. And they're not shooting like 13 or 14%. They're shooting under 10%. They're just generating a lot and finishing. The Bergeron matchup is a brutal matchup. I don't know. I'm not going to say you have to play, if you're a single entry, you have to play Edmonton or anything like that here tonight. If you're 20 maxing, I think you should absolutely get at least some one-off McDavid in your lineup. If not, maybe a Edmonton top line stack somewhere. Certainly you're playing them if you have 150 lineups. And don't forget, if you're playing Edmonton 1 and you're playing 50 lineups, you probably don't need more than 2 lineups to get way over the field, right? There's not going to be a lot of them. So I would play Edmonton 1 just because of how good McDavid is and how low ownership there is. There's no other reason to play him. There's no matchup or reason or anything like that, or a bad penalty kill or a bad goalie, nothing like that. It's just ownership. The rest of the lineup, I would just leave it by itself. I'm not playing Draisaitl, carrying around Yamamoto. I'm not playing Yamamoto himself. I'm just not doing any of that. The question is what to do with the Boston side, because you got to assume if they're matching up against McDavid, they're probably going to match up against Ekholm quite a bit too. Now, the Boston top line has been great since DeBrusk came back. 4.3 expected goals for per 60 minutes, 5.6 actual goals, shooting 12.5%, which is a little high, but not super extreme. But Marchand hasn't been shooting a lot, only 23 shots in his last 10 games. Kind of a bad matchup. I think on the Boston side, I kind of like the second line. And I don't know if I would full stack, but I would definitely do a Krejci Pasternak or something like that, right? Because Edmonton does take a lot of penalties. The penalty kills typically not been very good. Pasternak's still shooting a lot, 44 shots in his last 10 games. That second line from Edmonton, Draisaitl and Yamamoto are just a horror show defensively. So, lots of penalties for Edmonton, not really a good penalty kill. Not a good 5-on-5 defensive line. I think I kind of like Boston too here.
Yeah, and they're also going to avoid Ekholm. So, yeah. David Pastrnak, can you put him in the McDavid conversation as matchup proof? Certainly. So, Boston too. I don't even think you need a full stack. I mean, he is coming in double-digit ownership here, so maybe you don't want a one-off. You want to bring, Krejci along for the ride. But, yeah, do really like that second line. Let's move on to a game I wish wasn't on the slate. I'd be a lot happier. San Jose Sharks with a 3 total heading into St. Louis. The Blues have a 3.6 total. Capo Kakin and Jordan Bennington confirmed. Blues have moved Pavel Buchnevich to center. They've talked about it for a while. They're actually doing it now. He's centering Kasperi Kapanen and Jakub Vrana. I actually like that line. It's just 3 wings on DraftKings. That moves Alexei Torpachenko with Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou. Why? I don't know. That brings the Sharks into play for me. I think the Sharks are in play anyway.
Does it?
I don't think I'm full stacking. I don't mind Couture Barabanov. Also don't mind Hurdle Eklund or Euclid or however you pronounce it. Hurdle Eklund, Euclid, ukulele. Doesn't matter. 7,800 for the two of them. Blues don't take a ton of penalties, and they also have their penalty kills not god awful like it was earlier in the season. It's okay. But I don't know. I think you could do a lot worse for a 3 row total. You know what I mean? My focus is on the Blues side, but the problem is these lines kind of are a mess. But Buchnevich, Vrana, 2-man, I think is fine. I wanted to play Thomas Buchnevich Kyrou tonight, but now with Torpachenko there instead of Buchnevich, I almost have no interest in that line. What are you seeing?
I guess the one problem with Buchnevich, Vrana, and Kapanen is triple winger on DraftKings, right?
Yeah.
What I will say is there are a lot of double center stacks you can go to tonight. McKinnon Comfort from Colorado. You can certainly, the other side of this game, San Jose, you can do Hurdle and Couture if you want. I wouldn't. Obviously, Hischier and Hughes is always a double center stack that we use. You can certainly use the Buffalo double center stack if you want. So there are double center stack options, or you can just one off the center. It doesn't really matter. So there are options, and I'm going to be honest. I think that's going to be it's going to be their better line. I think it's going to be better. Torpachenko, I don't see what the Blues coaching staff sees in him. I don't get it. I haven't watched him a ton, obviously. I've probably watched him in fewer than a half dozen NHL games. There's nothing about his AHL profile that sticks out. None of the prospect people that I've read or speak with are excited about him in any regard. Feels like he's just a guy on the line. And I don't like playing lines that are just guys. So Buchnevich, Vrana, Kapanen, we know if Vrana's anywhere close to the player he's typically been over the last 5 years, he's not a $3,100 winger. He's a $5,500 winger, right? And Buchnevich, we'll see how he does at center. And I've been talking about Kapanen. Kapanen's big problem is just that he sucks defensively. He's not a bad offensive player. You don't need to be a great defensive player to, take advantage of this Sharks team. So Buchnevich, Vrana, Kapanen is where I would go. I'm not worried about power play units because their power play sucks anyway.
And their power play units right now are so stupid.
And they're just a mess. I do like Buchnevich, Vrana, Kapanen because I think if Vrana starts playing the way he can, his price comes up by $2,000. It could come up by $2,000 by the end of the season. I think it's just a nice price for what could be a good offensive line in a really good matchup that's not coming in with much ownership. So St. Louis too. Going to be honest, I don't have any interest in the San Jose side. They're coming in way higher owned. Would I rather play Hurdle, Zetterlund, Eklund at 7% or Buchnevich, Vrana, Kapanen at 6.5%, right? I would rather play the home team with, one guy that's Zetterlund was just yeeted by the Devils. They didn't care about him. Eklund showed well in the AHL, but Hurdle's really not looked good for a while now in San Jose. I think San Jose is kind of the bad chalk I don't want to play tonight. So I think, these are both going to be chalky sides considering their prices. I'd rather take the home team, rather take the better players. I'll go Buchnevich, Vrana, Kapanen.
That makes a lot of sense, and that's why we have more than two eyes on the show, get different viewpoints. Maybe I can cross off San Jose now. Maybe I'll still get sharked later. I don't know. We'll see.
I just have a real strong feeling that no matter what I do with that game, it's going to screw me. So,
Oh yeah, this game is the worst on the slate by far. Yeah, this game sucks.
I'm just ready to live with it.
Get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, and your first bet is covered up to $1,000 in first bet insurance when you sign up. Make a deposit and make your first paid wager at BetMGM. The most important part, click the link in the description below. If PrizePicks isn't available in your state, BetMGM most likely is. And you're getting 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you sign up. $120 value, as I mentioned in the last read. That's every tool on our site for every sport. All you need to do after you click the link in the description is follow the steps and deposit $10 or more. You place a bet on literally whatever you want. And after that bet settles, MGM will shoot you an email with how to get your free subscription to Stokastic Plus Platinum. It's that easy. Your bet doesn't even need to win. You can do a minimum of 10 up to 1,000 depending on your risk tolerance. So if your bet loses, you get the insurance back and you get to go place another bet. And then you get the month of Stokastic Plus Platinum for free. So it's a no-brainer. Make sure to click the link in the description below and go do that. It's a no-brainer. Let's move on to the next game here. Nashville Predators with a 3.3 total heading into Arizona. Los Coyotes have a 2.6 total. UC Saros is confirmed. Connor Ingram is probable. We have found the chalk, my friends. And it is Luke Evangelista, Tommy Novak, and Matt Duchene. Just end me. I mean, you put some things in the chat about Tommy Novak, and he's looked good. Evangelista's actually looked pretty good on the power play. Matt Duchene's a good player, but come on, man. 20+% on 11 game slate. Yeah, I know it's price driven. Evangelista's 2,800 on the top power play, and the Yotes take a Brinks truckload of penalties. But I just don't think I can eat that ownership. This is one of those stands. Plant the flag. If they burn me, they burn me. I'll get some ointment for tomorrow's show if we have a show tomorrow, and I'll put it on. I'm on the Arizona top line here. They've been rolling. That's where I'm at. Arizona top line.
And we don't even really know what the Nashville lineup is going to look like, right? Because they, big surprise, they broke up their lines last game, and there's nobody that writes about that team anymore, so we don't have any idea what the lines are going to be for tonight. we're assuming Evangelista and Novak stay with Duchesne, but they didn't last game. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, who was it that scored twice in that game against Vancouver? It was Evangelista, wasn't it? It was Evangelista. And Evangelista scored both his goals after he got moved off Duchesne's line. Right? So, like, is he going to be back? Did he get moved away from Matt Duchesne, scored twice, and they're going to put him back with Matt Duchesne? I can't imagine a coach thinking like that.
It could be John Leonard up there again. So
right, it could be Cody Glass.
It could be anybody.
Right, that's kind of the problem with Nashville, is that we don't really know what this lineup is going to look like. You know, I would guess that Duchesne and Novak are together. As for the rest of the lineup, you know, Sissons, Trainer, and Cole Smith was the only line that stayed together last game. Is that the only line you can rely on to stay together? Like, when you consider that Nashville's, you know, they're still missing Philip Forsberg and traded a whole slew of players. You know, maybe they're a little bit better defensively because of some of the guys they got rid of. But, like, I'm sorry, like, trading Niederreiter, Matthias Ekholm, and losing Philip Forsberg to injury is not going to make your team better by any stretch of the imagination. I think I'm with you. This is the chalk that I'm fading. Like, I said I didn't want to play San Jose. I'd rather play San Jose than Nashville. That's about where I'm at. So I think the Arizona top line is fine here. I'm going to be honest. I have some concerns because no Chychrun and no Gostisbehere was something that I've kind of overlooked. And Juuso Välimäki, I think, is a pretty good defenseman. I don't know who else is a pretty good defenseman on that roster other than him, right? I just don't know if they have any good puck movers other than Välimäki, which means anytime they're on the ice without him, they could struggle to move the puck. I think Arizona 1's fine to play because they're not coming in with much ownership. I just don't know if I'm as gung-ho as I was pretty much the last slate, because I watched that game and they didn't look good. And Arizona's looked bad a lot over the years, but they typically look better over the last few months. But since Gostisbehere and Chychrun got traded, it's been a little bit of a struggle, at least from what I've seen.
Victor Soderstrom could turn into a good puck mover. He just hasn't been great. He was young, though, so maybe. But, yeah, you know, that is always a concern. But, you know, 4%, under 4%, I think, you know, you can take some stabs for sure. Nashville. Like, I don't want to say I'd rather one off Casey Middlestat than Luke Evangelista, but I think I'd rather one off Casey Middlestat than Luke Evangelista. Like, I just can't play a 20% Nashville player other than Yossi.
Yeah.
Which, you know what I mean? Like, until Forsberg comes back, I just can't do it. And even if it's him, I don't think I can do it. Anyway,
I don't know, man. Like, give me a Forsberg Duchesne Glass or a Forsberg Duchesne Novak, and I'll play it.
Yeah.
If it's Evangelista, I don't know, Yakov training Matt Duchesne, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Go ahead and play it. I'm not.
Yeah. I mean, go for it. They're super cheap, and you can fit a whole gaggle of things in there with them. But, you know, I just can't at that ownership. Los Angeles Kings with a 2.9 total heading into Colorado. The Avalanche have a 3.5 total. Younes Korpisalo is confirmed. Alexander Georgiev is probable. Evan Rodriguez moved up to the second line last game with Mikko Rantanen and JT Compher. McKinnon, Lekin, and Nichushkin, the top line. I did see, like, Mikko Rantanen did take some shifts with McKinnon in that game. He didn't stick there, though. McKinnon.
They do that every game. Yeah, it's like Rantanen's going to play the final 10 or 15 minutes with McKinnon every game.
Yeah.
Unless they're up like 7-0.
Yeah, for the most part, that top line did stick together. This is another interesting spot because the Avs top line is getting no ownership here. Like, none of these superstar players are getting any ownership. I like the Avs top line here. What am I missing?
I mean, I do like the Avs top line as well. I don't think you're really missing anything. Couple things. One, the Kings, the way that this matchup is going to go kind of interests me. Like, they had tried using Lars Eller kind of in a shutdown role a little bit and trying to get McKinnon away from those matchups. Whether they do that again here tonight, I guess we're going to find out. Because the thing is, if Colorado goes into that Kings top line, I've been talking about it on Twitter for like a week now.
They're nasty. Yeah.
Man. And it's another one of those situations where I'm trying to cut the sample off shorter and shorter to see if they're starting to fall off. The last 3 weeks, 3.1 expected goals for, 1.9 against. That's a 62% expected goal share over the last 3 weeks. They're crushing the competition. Quentin Byfield, I think, is starting to turn into the player that he was drafted to be. He's basically looking like Kopitar looked 7 or 8 years ago. Now, not as good offensively yet as Kopitar was at that time, but I think at least offensively, still rounding into that. That feels like a pretty brutal matchup for the Colorado top line. But I don't know if that's necessarily what they're going to do. Because like I said, they had been using Larry Eller, in a shutdown role a little bit and trying to get McKinnon away from that. If they can do that, I think the Colorado top line stands a pretty good chance of success here tonight. And I'm with you, not a ton of ownership, under 3%. They're less expensive than the Edmonton top line. They're less expensive than the Tampa Bay top line. I do like going back to the well with Colorado one here. So, I'll say it again, even though I think he had 3 points in the last game, and you can leave Lehkonen off, I think is fine, but I really do like Colorado one here. I will mention this Los Angeles second line. They're probably going to see a fair bit of the second line matchup. Compher, Rantanen, Rodriguez. That line really hasn't been that good defensively. 3.2 expected goals against, 2.7 actual goals against. Those numbers are both below average. And the Kings second line has been pretty good offensively, certainly a lot better over the last couple weeks as they've gotten more chemistry. So I don't know if I wouldn't play them in a single entry or something like that, but that Kings second line, Fiala, Arvidsson, Deneau, if I was playing, certainly like 50 lineups, they would be in a few of them.
Yeah, something that made me nervous with the Avalanche top line, I'm going to have to go back and look. They took Nichushkin off the top power play. They put Lehkonen on. But then the second power play unit was Nichushkin, Evan Rodriguez. Nichushkin, Alex Newhook, Bowen Byram, Sam Girard, and Devin Tays. I don't know what that is. But he was on the first few power plays, and then they flip-flopped him. I don't know if it was because they had a big lead or...
Yeah, there was 4 minutes left in the game, and they're up 6-0.
Okay.
So I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm good, bro. You good? Let's move on to the last game of the night. The Ottawa Senators with a 3.1 total heading into Seattle. The Kraken have a 3.4 total. Mads Søgaard is probable. Philip Grubauer is confirmed. Cam Talbot got hurt. He's out for at least 3 weeks. Philip Grubauer has actually been playing okay. That's new. Here we are with Seattle again. This is a good matchup for Seattle. It's just who do you want to play here? I think all the lines are in play, but if I had to pick one, I'm going back to Beniers, McCann, Eberle, and then I'd go to Wenberg, Bjorkstrand. If you want to play Gord, Tolvanen, because they're cheaper, I think that's fine, but the other two lines interest me more. On the Senators side, there's no ownership there. Sens are very power play reliant, so I think you can go to that top line is fine. They're just expensive. You know what I mean? It's not like they have like a 3.7 road total. It's 3.1. They have 2 playable lines. Neither of them are getting ownership. I think it's the Seattle side I prefer.
Yeah. I do like the Seattle side, like kind of in a nutshell. It kind of depends where. Like that Beniers line is another one of those lines that's really, really riding percentages. They're shooting over 17% in their last 100 minutes together. Like half that rate would be about league average, which so clearly they're just riding super hot. But the Wenberg line, conversely, has been generating quite a bit. Wenberg, Bjorkstrand, and Schwartz. They're up to nearly 150 minutes together, 3.2 expected goals for, 1.9 against. They're controlling something like 63% of the expected goal share. They've been utterly dominant. Now, they're probably going to go into the Ottawa top six, and the Ottawa top six has actually been pretty good defensively and certainly improved once they got Jacob Chychrun. So I don't think I'm super gung-ho on the Seattle side here, especially when you consider they're all coming in with negative leverage. Like, I think if anything, I would just go to Schwartz, Bjorkstrand, Wenberg as a filler. I might even just leave off Wenberg and go Schwartz, Bjorkstrand as a two-man. So that's kind of it for me on the Seattle side. Like, you're right, they do have basically three playable lines, but it's only the Schwartz line I'm really interested in here. It's the Ottawa side I have more interest in. And the reason for that is that Seattle Beniers line has not been that great defensively. And, Grubauer has been pretty good. He's only allowed 7 goals in his last 4 starts. But then he also allowed 14 goals in the 4 starts before that. So, which Grubauer are we going to get? And there's no ownership coming in on that second line, that Pinto, Batherson, DeBrincat line. They could see a fair bit of the Beniers matchup, which I think is a good one for them. The Pinto line is at 3 expected goals per 60 minutes over the last 4 weeks together. Problem is just shooting 5%. If their shooting percentage could ever regress positively, they could really do pretty well. I think Ottawa 2 is the line that I like best in this game when I'm factoring in ownership here. But I also will say the Schwartz line's fine.
Yep. And before we move on to goalies and defensemen, just saw Trevor Moore going to be in the lineup tonight.
Eesh.
That kind of changes my tune a little bit on Colorado, I think.
Me too, because if he goes back to the second line, that's a pretty brutal defensive top 6.
Yeah.
Well, something to think about, I guess.
Something to think about for sure. Coming up after us at 4:00, we have the odds shop. It's they go over today's best bets with Odd Shopper's premium tools. 4:00 on the Odd Shopper channel, so make sure to stick around for that. Let's talk a little bit about defensemen. A lot of games, a lot of defensemen to choose from. Who are your favorites?
Yossi, obviously, at the top of the list, especially for expensive defensemen, especially if that's what we're going to talk about. I do like Brent Burns in his matchup as well. And Erik Karlsson, it's another one of those situations where if San Jose generates some goals, it's probably going to have to be, Karlsson giving a big helping hand. So Yossi, Burns, Karlsson are the 3 expensive guys. Dmitry Orlov, obviously moving to Boston's top power play unit. I think he's arguably the best play on the entire slate for the blue line. Evan Bouchard on the other side of that game. I've just been getting a lot more minutes. Jacob Trouba, like I said, I don't like him on the power play, and I don't, but it's an improvement for him specifically. And it's a good matchup to generate some shots on his behalf. Go back to Jeff Petrie. He's playing 3.5 more minutes a game than Chris Letang over their last, half dozen games or something like that. So don't mind going back to Petrie. If you're looking for cheap defensemen under 3K, Zach Whitecloud from Vegas, Matt Irwin from Washington, even though he was under 15 minutes like last game, that worries me a little bit. John Marino in New Jersey, he's second in ice time of late amongst Devils blue liners. Josh Brown in Arizona, Jamie Alexiak from Dallas. Now, if you want to pay up a little bit more, in that 3 to 4K range on DraftKings, it's Jacob Slave and Adam Pelech that I'm really looking at, and I think Matthias Ekholm's fine as well.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about Jacob Trouba, 5,700 coming in with almost double the ownership of Adam Fox, who's only $700 more. I much prefer Adam Fox tonight than Trouba, but if you can't get to Fox, I think Trouba's fine. I just prefer Fox. This is a good power play matchup. I think Fox is but I want the unit that Fox is on. Or I want to play Fox for the power play is what I'm saying. So I'll find this extra 700 to go up from Fox to Trouba. But if you can't get there, I think Trouba's fine. He's a peripheral guy. Let's talk about some goalies, especially on DraftKings. There's so many cheap goalies in play here tonight. There's 2 price goalies. There's 2 others under 7K. Who are you liking?
There are a bunch. In fact, I just put Eric Comrie into a sample lineup. This is our lineup builder here on DraftKings. I made a lineup using Carolina top line, New Jersey. I put Eric Comrie in net. He's 6,500. I mean, between him and Kochetkov, both 6,500 goalies, I think they're fine. I put in Jokiharju and Carlson on the blue line, so that's our sample lineup for today. So yeah, Kochetkov, Comrie, obviously. Felix Sandstrom, like, he's going into Carolina. We know how Carolina likes to generate a lot of shots. I know it's one of those things where could allow like 5 goals on 41 shots, and it's a pretty bad night, but I think he's another guy under 7K I would easily play here, especially if you want to get away from what should be like really, really chalky. Kochetkov at least, if not Comrie as well. Karl Vejmelka at home to Nashville. I don't know why he's so cheap against Nashville, but I'll take him at home against the Predators. And of course, Ilya Sorokin. I'll play him anytime he's under 8K.
Yeah, I don't know what I want to do with Kochetkov chalk, like, because he's gonna be the chalky goalie, and I usually say goalie ownership doesn't matter, the points do, but like, it's not like he's the only really cheap goalie. You know what I mean? He is the best of the cheap goalies, but
Peter Kochetkov was right there for you. You had it. You had it in your draft.
I'm gonna go cry. No, but like, man, like, I can't even think now that I missed that. That's sad. Sad for me. You have any interest in Stewie Skinner?
He's playable, but like, I don't know why. Like, I don't know why I would play him, right? Like, he's 7,100. Why would I play him ahead of Sandstrom? Or why would I play him ahead of Comrie? Or why would I play him even ahead of Vejmelka? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Talk about Stewie from Peter Griffin?
No, we're not talking about Stewie from Family Guy. Who's your hat trick pick tonight?
Pavel Buchnevich.
Very good. His name is slammed on my screen right now. I don't even know who I'm going with here. Let's get really, really spicy here. I don't know who's really spicy. No, I can't do that. That's way too spicy. I'm gonna go Dawson Mercer.
I like it.
Go just for Bachquist, and then I was just gonna retire. But yeah, for some Cliffy, I'm your host, Josh Harris. We will be back, I believe, next week. Actually, it's Monday or Tuesday. Tomorrow's a short slate, so yeah. So good luck, everybody, tonight, and we'll see you in Discord. We'll see you on Twitter.
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah.
Ooh.